I welcome you all for the today's lecture on pollution haven hypothesis and India, the current scenario. As the whole world is very particular about the environment, and that too in this pandemic situation, we are discussing various issue and the various reasons are related with the environment. Whatever the health issues or other issues when we face the environmental issues also discussed far with it. The reason is the environment is highly related with the human activity. If there is no human, then there is no problem with the environment. As we are the people, we have close relationship with the environment, and without the support of environment, our survival will be questionable. So we are highly related to the environment. So this hypothesis explains how the environment and trade affects the survival of the human being and other organisms in the environment. And if you look at this topic, pollution haven hypothesis, now we have to, before that, we have to understand what is the current scenario of the environment. What is the current scenario of this environment? If you look at the available resources, we could see a huge depletion in the available of the natural resources, and as a outcome, we are facing various environmental issues. And if you see the status of the environment, we could list a large number of aspects that affects the environment. As we pollute the environment, as the human activity, as well as the industrialization and urbanization, population growth, all these factors affect the environment. At present, there is a huge threat of globalization as well as the global warming. And when we, as Professor said, when we initiated these economic reforms and we have widened our market to enter into our country, and as a result, because of various influence throughout the world, it has led to global warming. And at present, we face 1.1 degrees Celsius of global temperature. But in the year 2012, the average temperature was 0.85 degrees Celsius. But at present, it has reached 1.1 degree Celsius. Now the whole world is speaking about we have to reduce or we have to stop up to 1.5 degrees Celsius. If we go beyond the 1.5 degrees Celsius, then we have to meet various consequences. A study says that even if today if you stop pollution or carbon emissions, then it will take 13 years to come to a normal position of the global temperature. So even today, if you stop the pollution, it will take 13 years to restore its place to a normal temperature. And because of this global warming, we are facing various issues at present. If you take climate change, for the past one decade, we have come across 33 cyclones because of the climate change, and 32% of the ocean is melting now. And as a result, we could see rise in seawater level. And all these issues are because of the pollution. If you take the ozone layer depletion, see, ozone layer depletion is the safeguard for us which filters the ultraviolet rays, and it helps to survive. But when we pollute more, all these carbon emissions creates ozone layer depletion. And in the year 2020 August, they found that in Antarctica there was a ozone hole which is 24 million square kilometer. You can imagine how much damage we are creating to the ozone layer. If we allow the sun rays directly into the environment, it will affect the human being as well as the animals. Sometimes it leads to cancer. So these are the various issues we are surviving at present. Next is the deforestation. At present, we have only 21% of the forest resources. Actually, we must have 33% of the forest resources. For that, our government is trying to do that. But for the past one decade, from 2001 to 2020, that is 2 decades, we have lost 1.93 million hectares of tree cover. Deforestation is a huge issue. And as we go on cut down the trees, we do not get good rainfall. Sometimes we get huge rainfall. Sometimes we face a drought. It is because of climate change and the mismanagement of the environment. If you take the case of water pollution, 70 to 80% of the people, they do not have safe drinking water. The groundwater is polluted, seawater seepage is there. So when we dump the waste into the environment, then of course it affects the land as well as the water. And air pollution is a huge threat. Around 6.67 million deaths that it occurs due to air pollution. And out of these, 25% is from India and scientists from China. See the damage that the economic cost, the social cost incurred is 1.36% of our GDP. So how much loss that we create? Agriculture, it has failed because of this climate change and huge drought, huge rainfall, flood, everything. Then unsustainable cities, people when rural people they are unable to survive, they could not find their livelihood. Then people move to the urban area for their livelihood. So huge population in urban area, and it leads to unsustainable cities where huge amount of solid waste, liquid waste is not properly handled. Now they say that because of this flood in Chennai, it has cleaned all the drainage and the river because of this flood. But the people have suffered a lot. But in spite of that, a good thing, a positive externality because of this flood is it has cleaned all the drainage and the river in Chennai. That is the only thing happened there. But what they say is the water that we have wasted can be supported for 1.5 years towards the population need in Chennai. That much of water we have wasted within few weeks. So these are the thing. And if you take the case of energy, as our professor said in the introduction, we are using more the non-renewable resources. We have plenty of renewable resources. Solar energy we can use, wind energy we can use, which is a renewable energy. But we are using only the non-renewable energy like coal. 90% of the electricity is from coal. And you can imagine that how much we are depleting. And it may take millions of years to get the coal. It is not an easy job. But we are not concentrating on renewable energy, which our former late President APJ Abdul Kalam said we have to think about alternative energy, but we have failed. These are the various issues that we are facing at present. So next we can look at the we can have a glance over the environmental legislation in India. For example, if you take, you can from 1972 to 2021, we have enacted various legislation to protect the environment. You can take from Wildlife Act from 1972 to the current 2021. We have taken various measures to protect the environment. Instead of all this legislation, the environment is polluted, and we need an answer for that. You may have why there is pollution. Even we have various laws and regulations. If you take the case of India, we are the first country to bring Child Labor Act to protect the children. They have brought for India is the first country to bring the Child Labor Act. But in the world, we are having large number of child labors. You can imagine, we are the first person to bring the Child Labor Act, but we have huge number of child labor. So there is a problem in between implementation of the law and enacting both the things. We have problem in implementing those laws strictly in particular. This happens, and you can have a glance of all these various legislation, environmental legislation. Then next we have this question in our mind: why economics dominates than the environment? See, without environment we cannot survive. We all know that. Even in spite of that, the economics dominates as compared to the environment. Environment we worship five elements. We worship water, we worship everything. The nature we worship. But even then, we worship and we live. But in case of economics, we are very much particular. The whole world, of course, only few countries they concentrate on environmental management. But almost all we speak about sustainable development goals, sustainable development goals. We have that. But in spite of everything, economics dominates. Even at the time of COVID-19, there was small change in the environmental condition, but no one took more care of speaking about the environment. Altogether, we were more cautious about the economic slowdown and unemployment problem and various issues. So what it shows, the whole world is very particular about the economics rather the environmental conservation or management. Why it is so? Why the environmental law fails? We have law. If you pollute the water, then we have to be penalized for it. We are the responsible for it. But even then we are polluting the water. The only thing is we concentrate more on production. We need GDP. We want a two-digit growth rate. We need huge employment. As we in India we have huge population. We want to meet out the employment, and there is a huge unemployment. We have to overcome all those aspects, and we need development. How we are measured? Even we are environment is not considered. As we are speaking about green GDP, the GDP it speaks about the production of a country. But in the case of green GDP, we have to consider the environmental depletion. But we are not concentrating on those depletion. When we are computing the green GDP, then we have to take account of this GDP, as well as we have to detect the degradation of the or depletion of the natural resources. Then we have to bring the green GDP. But it is like a concept, but it is not mandated. So because of that, continuously the economics is given more importance as compared to the environment, with various issues. As I said, we are facing various issues. Instead of that, we are concentrating more on the economic development. And as I discussed that there is a huge dependence over the environment. Economics means when we mean the production, we get huge raw materials from the environment. By understanding everything, even then we are polluting, and we never think about the future. What will be the future availability of resources? For example, if you use 90% of the coal for electricity, then in long run, if you exploit all the coal, what we will do for the electricity? Then we have to think it over. Then we have to move towards other alternative renewable energy like solar powers. So there is a close relationship between environment and economy. And if you see the screen, I have presented two pictures, diagrams. First one is Kuznets hypothesis, and another one is Kuznets environmental hypothesis. So the first thing is Kuznets hypothesis. It is purely about economics, and if you take the case of Kuznets environmental hypothesis, it is about the environment and the economy. First, I will discuss about the Kuznets hypothesis. What he understands is, as the income per capita of a country increases, the inequality will decline in long run. That is the core idea. And even if you see the graph, when the income per capita increases at the initial stage, the inequality increases. When the economy grows, when it slowly grows to certain level, there will be inequality. After that, when per capita income increases, the inequality will decline. So it is obvious, it is accepted. When income increases, definitely it will affect the inequality. The inequality will fall down, and there will be no inequality. It will be declining. This is the core idea of the Kuznets hypothesis, and it can be validated. And if you take the case of environmental Kuznets curve hypothesis, it was brought in the year 2000. Our environmentalists, they have started to adapt this environmental Kuznets curve hypothesis with the idea of the Kuznets. What they say is, when the GDP per capita increases, in the initial stage, the pollution will increase. Later after certain stage, the pollution will decline. How it will decline? When the income increases, in the beginning stage, they will be polluting. After a certain period of time, when they get more income, they will think about environmental quality. And when I am not having enough money, whatever the available water I will be consuming. After that, if I am having enough money, I will be thinking about the sanitation and the quality of water. Similarly, what their idea is, when the economy grows up to certain level, after certain period of time, when they have enough income, then they will think about reduction of pollution through green technologies. They may change over. Nowadays, we are speaking more about battery two-wheelers, battery cars. Now we have moved to BS6 engines. From BS4 to we have moved to 6 engines. The reason is in order to reduce the pollution. But recently in Delhi, they have because of pollution, they have went for a public holiday. This is the condition of our country. But what this environmental Kuznets curve says is, in long run the pollution will come down when the economy grows. That is the idea. But the Kuznets curve in terms of economics is accepted. In case of environmental economics, it is not accepted. In practice, when there is development or increase in per capita income, in long run you cannot reduce the pollution. Further it increases in practice. But whatever the theory says or hypothesis says, it cannot be accepted. In most cases it is rejected. You take the case of India. From the independence to at present, the income has increased, per capita income has increased. Whether there is decline in pollution? No. When my income increases, we all are having 2 or 3 two-wheelers, cars. A household is having 2-3 two-wheelers. Long back, if you see the rural or urban area, 1 or 2 will be having a two-wheeler. Now everything has changed. Now we are consuming more the fuel. Then how could you say that when per capita income increases, it will decline the pollution? There is no opportunity. Now you will get some idea how economics works and how the environment works. When the economy is considered, when income increases, inequality will fall down. But in case of environmental Kuznets curve hypothesis, when income increases, the pollution also will increase. There is no place for declining the pollution. This is the idea that we get. And coming to the theory of comparative advantage, you might have studied in economics, in the international economics, that is the Hertzer-Ohlin theory. I am narrating all this. It has a link with the theory, that is a pollution haven hypothesis. Next slide will move towards this pollution haven hypothesis. In case of the theory of comparative advantage, you might have studied, if you take a country, if the country is capital intensive and it is not labor intensive, what they will do, when they are capital intensive or when they have huge capital, they will export more the capital intensive product and they will import labor intensive product. That is the comparative advantage. What they will do, when they are having huge capital, then they will think, if I produce more capital intensive, I will get more gains. That is gain that I will get out of the trade. Here the labor, they do not have enough labor. For that, what they are doing, they can import the products or goods and services from a country where there is large number of laborers, like in the case of India. This is the comparative advantage. See, a country is very particular what to produce and how to produce. What I can do. For example, even though we have various subjects, I am specialized in a particular subject. Similarly, a country before production, it will think what I can do. Even we speak about solar energy. Just every day we get huge sun rays, heat. But even then we are not going to the solar, we are not moving towards solar energy. Why? We have to invest some 2 lakh rupee. But in case of electricity, just with the 2000 deposit, we get the electricity connection. So I am comparing whether I have to invest 2000 rupee or 2 lakh rupee. Take the interest. Just with the interest, I can pay the electricity bill. Even when we compare both the things, getting a connection from EB is better than having a solar energy. That is the intention of the people. So here the trade compares what I can do, what I have to produce. So this is what about theory of comparative advantage. This compares the cost, where the cost of production will be high, where I can what I can produce, like that. Similar idea is given under this pollution haven hypothesis. The pollution hypothesis is also having an idea of what the comparative advantage theory says. Now, what is pollution haven hypothesis? Before that, I will tell, havens means புகலிடம், தஞ்சமடைதல். So pollution, where it will move, where the pollution will be more, that is the idea. First they say that this pollution haven hypothesis will be determined based on the environmental rules and regulations. Based on the environmental rules and regulation. If a country is having strict rules and regulation, a country will not go to that particular country for investing or for production purpose. When a country is weak in pollution rules and regulation or pollution tax, then the country will be moving towards a country like India, where the tax or the legislation is weak. See, if you take the case of India, we allow the people to invest, and whether we are monitoring the level of pollution, our pollution control board is monitoring, is the question. If it is monitoring, there won't be any pollution. What the pollution legislation says, when you want to dump the waste, whether it is solid or liquid, we have to eliminate all the emissions, chemical content, then only we have to release in the environment. But we don't do that. Just we dump all the waste in sea or ocean or a river, pond, land, everywhere. So here it is weak. So what pollution haven hypothesis says, a country, that too a developed country, will find a place, that too in the developing country, and it will invest in that country because the environmental regulation is weak. For example, if rules and regulation is weak, then I won't wear helmet, I will go as I wish. For example, the traffic police says, if you do not wear helmet, we will seize your two-wheeler. If you are not wearing seat belts, we will seize your car. If the rule says like that, if it is strictly followed, what I will do, I will wear helmet, I will wear seat belt, and I will wear mask. But what it says, developed countries impose tougher environmental policies than the developing countries do. What I will do as an Indian, in India, we are welcoming all the foreigners to invest, come to India and invest, because we are hunger, we need huge income, as our people are suffering, huge inequality is there, we want to eliminate. So come, the developing country India says that what the developed countries is doing, they will impose huge tax, pollution tax, and they will not allow you, they will restrict. So what the hypothesis says, the developed countries will impose tougher environmental policies than the developing countries. So the polluting industries, they will shift to the country where the regulations are very lenient, very comfortable, and that is termed as the pollution havens. இந்த புகலிடம் சொன்னோம் இல்லைங்களா, எங்கே போயிட்டு நிறுவனங்களை தொடங்குவார்கள், எந்த நாடுகளில் இந்த சட்டத்திட்டங்கள் எளிதாக இருக்கிறதோ அந்த நாடுகளிலே இந்த முதலீட்டாளர்கள் முதலீடு செய்வார்கள். அங்கே வேணும், எந்த அளவுக்கு வேண்டுமோ அந்த அளவுக்கு மாசுபாடை ஏற்படுத்தி விடலாம். அதுதான் ஒரு கருத்தாக இந்த அனுமானம் இருக்கிறது. That is said as a pollution haven hypothesis. And also they argue that firms will seek to avoid the cost of regulation. For example, if the tax is too huge, then what the firm will do, if I go to US, the tax is too high, I will not go and I will not invest there. But in India, the tax is very minimum, so that let me invest in India. As you compare Pondicherry with Tamil Nadu, as we purchase in Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, based on the tax, we compare the tax price. Similarly, this pollution haven hypothesis also says that when the regulation is weak, when the law is weak, a country will invest where it is weak. It will not go to a country where the tax or environmental regulation is very strict. This is the core idea. Now the topic is pollution haven hypothesis and India. How this pollution haven hypothesis and India is related? Whether it applies to the condition of the India, that we will discuss in the next slide. Then if you take the case of pollution haven hypothesis and India, I have gone through various studies. At least I might have gone through 150 studies I have downloaded, and I have gone through various studies. Based on the study, what I have gathered as a variable is, almost all these studies, they have taken carbon emissions and FA, foreign direct investment. By taking these two variables, they have analyzed this pollution haven hypothesis. What is that? What is the level of carbon emission in a country, and what is the foreign direct investment in a country, and they have found the relationship. This is what most of the studies have made an attempt. Beyond that, some studies they have taken pollution tax, GDP, population, region, energy, and trade openness. These are the other factors. But almost all the studies they have taken two variables. What the hypothesis says, the FDI will be more in a country where the environmental rules are very weak. FDI will be more. That is the hypothesis. I will invest where I will feel comfortable. So that is the core idea. When the level of FDI increases, simultaneously the pollution is increasing or not. That is the hypothesis. Right? Understood? The thing is, when FDI, foreign direct investment, increases, simultaneously the pollution is also increasing. Because in India, countries like India, what the developed countries are doing, they are having strict rules and regulation, and they find a place in countries like India, and they come with their investment and invest here, and they pollute. Now this pollution have an hypothesis says a country will decide to invest where the environmental law is weak, so that they have to taken these two variables, carbon emissions and FDI, and they have analyzed whether this pollution have an hypothesis can be accepted or rejected. So these are the variables. The meta-analysis means going through various studies and collecting all of the variables they have used. And coming to the case of India, I am sharing the graphs to you. That is FDI inflows into India from 2012 to 21. If you take these years, if you take the graphs, we could see the FDI has increased by $81.72 billion. In spite of COVID-19, we could see that there is huge number of issues. You might all crossed all those issues. In spite of COVID-19 and lockdown, the FDI has increased continuously from 2014 to 2021. First thing is, as I said earlier, we are going to compare the FDI and carbon emissions. That is, carbon emission means pollution. FDI means investment. So how these two variables are correlated? As I showed this graph, the FDI is continuously increasing in India. There is no decline in spite of COVID-19. So next we can see what is the carbon emissions in India. And this graph shows the carbon emissions from 1982 to 2020. We could see there is a steady increase with few fluctuations over the period, and it has increased in up to 2018, but it has declined negatively in 2020 as compared to the previous year. That is annual change in carbon emissions in India. Only in 2020, just recently, there is a decline in carbon emissions as compared to the previous year, and it is because of the COVID-19. And you may ask a question, sir, this investment FDI has increased, but the pollution or carbon emission has decreased. When the investment comes to a country, all at a sudden it will not create pollution. The investment will be there in 2021, but it will start production process after 3 or 4 years. It will take some time for construction of a industry. So for that purpose, it has a huge impact. COVID-19 lockdown has a huge impact on carbon emissions, but the FDI has increased over the period. But in that period alone, there is a fall as compared to the previous year. So with this, we cannot come to a conclusion. As you now you are seeing the annual percentage change in the CO2 emissions. Not only in India, throughout the globe, there is a decline in carbon emissions in 2020. Not only in India, throughout the world, there is a carbon emission because of this COVID-19. So it does not apply only for India, almost for all whole world. As you know very well, there was a huge lockdown, and because of that, there is a decline. So now I have gathered some data from the RBI. And I want to know from which country the FDI is more, and what is the carbon emissions, and what is the carbon tax for each and every country. That is my idea. Now we have idea about both the things. One is in India FDI increases, and I want to see about the carbon emissions. Carbon emission is also increasing, but it has declined for reason of lockdown. That's all. Now we can move on to the FDI flows to India. I have taken data from 2016 to 20. The major FDI countries towards India is Singapore, Mauritius, US, Netherlands, Japan. These are the 5 countries. They invest huge amount, huge FDI flows towards the India. These are the 5 top countries. If you take the case of 2021, a small change is there. Mauritius has come to the 3rd position, where Singapore stands first, US comes second, and Mauritius comes third. That's all. In the year 2020-21 alone. But if you take the data for 16 to 21 over the 5 years, Singapore has brought huge FDI to India. Mauritius has brought huge FDI. Then third, US, Netherlands, Japan, and other countries. You need not to worry about other countries because it is only meager FDI. We can take only the top 5 countries. So if you see the picture, 28%, 28.4% of the FDI is from Singapore. Then Mauritius 21%. Then US 11% for the past 5 years. So we could see these 5 countries are investing more in India. With this, I will move on to the carbon emissions for those countries. What is the carbon emissions of those countries in 2020? If you take the case of all the 5 countries, when you compare with India, Singapore alone is releasing lesser emissions as you compared with the US or Mauritius. So you can see that US is releasing 416.72 tons of carbon emissions in the year 2020. In case of India, it is only 54.42%. So 42 tons of carbon emissions. So what we understand, the countries are releasing more effluents, carbons. In spite that, our country is releasing still only lesser amount of carbon. When you take the case of US, they are releasing huge amount of 416.72 tons of carbon. At the same time, they are investing more in our country. In case of US, the pollution haven hypothesis does not work. But in one case it works. In Singapore, you can see in Singapore is investing more in India, but its emission is very meager, 2.16 million tons. That's all. But if you take the case of US, they are releasing more effluents in their country. At the same time, they are also investing in other countries. And now next we will have a still more view of this FDI. Okay, FDI is coming from Singapore, Mauritius, US, Netherlands, Japan. So where they are investing, in which sector they are investing more, that we have to think. You can ask me a question, sir, the FDI can be in some other service sector or other things. They may not pollute. How could you say that all the FDI will pollute? For example, if Singapore is investing, you cannot say that the whole amount will pollute. So where they invest? So that I have taken data from the RBI for the countries where they invest in India. If you take the case of India, they are investing in manufacturing, computer services, communication services, financial services, retail and wholesale trade, and transport and others. So these are the sectors we receive FDI. So what is the percentage? If you take the manufacturing and computer services, communication services, almost it is more than 50%. The FDI inflows to our country is almost more than 50% are invested in manufacturing, Computer services, communication services, which will pollute more. Which will pollute more. Financial services only 10% they invest. More than 50% of investment, that is FDI, is on polluting industries. Polluting industries. So what the understanding we have? So when a country is planning to invest in a country, then they will find a country where they can pollute more. That is the idea of the pollution haven hypothesis. To some extent, with this data, we are able to understand that when the FEI enters into our country, they are investing where they can make more pollutions. With this now we can move on to the manufacturing alone, because huge amount, more than 20% they are investing on manufacturing. And now the data on manufacturing, FDI on manufacturing in India. If you take manufacturing alone, as it is, because huge share, when you look at the data, 39.4% is on machinery and tools, and chemicals 22%. So electrical machinery and apparatus, they invest 13.1%. So they are very particular in polluting. All this FDI investment that enters into our country India is polluting, no doubt about it. More than 50% of the investment is on pollution intensive production, that we can understand. To some extent we are able to understand that pollution haven hypothesis have a logic in FDI investment. It proves as FDI increases, the level of pollution increases in the country. So with that, still we cannot come to a conclusion. Then we can move on to the tax structure, carbon tax. So whether, as we speak about, when a country has strong environmental regulations, the country will not come. As I said, the helmet and the seat belt example. So if India is imposing huge pollution tax, if you pollute more, I will lay heavy more tax. So a country like Singapore will see that, oh, if I invest in India, they will tax more, then I will not get more benefit. Then they will find some other country to invest. So I have taken this carbon tax also. And this carbon tax is given in US dollar, wherein I have converted into rupees. Okay, now we can compare the FDI inflows in percentage to India, then the carbon tax of each and every country, then the carbon emissions. If you take the case of Singapore, they invest more in India. Also they claim 276 rupees carbon tax per ton. If you want to use a ton of carbon in Singapore, we have to pay 276 rupees. If you take the case of Mauritius, we have to pay 360 rupees. In Japan, it is 199 rupees. In India, it is 400 rupees. But if you take the case of US and Netherlands, in US, they are collecting 1886 rupees per ton of carbon emission. In case of Netherlands, still it is too high. 2716 rupees they collect for carbon emissions. So from this, what we are able to understand is, Japan is collecting lesser amount. Netherlands is collecting more amount of tax. India is collecting 400. Comparatively, if you look into the picture, Singapore and Japan is collecting lesser tax. But you see the effluents, carbon emissions. Only in Singapore, the emission is 2.16 billion ton. In other countries, it is huge. And in case of Netherlands also, it is minimum. So we can take 2 countries alone out of 5 countries, that is Singapore, US, Mauritius, Netherlands and Japan. We can take only 2 countries, that is Singapore and Netherlands. I will say how it relates with the pollution haven hypothesis. First you see the FDI, they are investing 28% of the total. Their contribution is 28%. Major amount is from Singapore. The tax is minimum, but the effluent is very less. So what we understand, in Singapore, the pollution is less and they are very particular to invest in India as they feel comfortable. But in case of Netherlands also, the effluent is very less, but the investment is not up to the mark. But you can have a question, sir. In US is investing 21%. But if you take the case of carbon tax, it is 1886. Why they are investing in India? Why they are investing in India? What we understand is, in some country they think about the pollution haven hypothesis. They adopt pollution haven hypothesis. But in countries like America, they need huge production. They want to invest more. So they find places where it is weak. In India, if you pollute, you have to pay only 400 rupees. But if you pollute in America, you have to pay 1886 rupees. If you take the case of Netherlands, you have to pay 2716 rupees. The tax is high as compared to India. As compared to India. But in case of Singapore, the strong regulation is not allowing other countries to invest. So if you ask me, in some countries this pollution haven hypothesis works. But in case of India, countries like India, pollution haven hypothesis does not work. Not only that, even though we have carbon tax, there is lack of monitoring agencies. Lack of monitoring agencies. For example, if you are very strict in following the rules and regulation, if you adopt this tax, if you implement this tax, still we can reduce the carbon emissions. But only thing is we have carbon tax. But in practice, we are not adapting it strictly. That is the reason. So pollution haven hypothesis, to a large extent we cannot rely upon it. So with this I move to some case studies. What the studies examine. If you take the case of Yang, he found that the carbon emission in Taiwan has increased because of trade liberalization. And the study in 2001, it has found that there is some relationship between the trade liberalization and carbon emissions. So it accepts the pollution haven hypothesis. If you take the case of Eric, 2007, he has analyzed this pollution haven in India. And he rejected the hypothesis. In India, as I am discussing, as I said earlier, the study in 2007 has rejected this pollution haven hypothesis. Why? As our professor said, after economic reforms, there is an increase in 50% of the trade, not because of pollution. There is no linkages between the pollution. Only thing is they want to start business because of huge labor potential and other infrastructure support, so that they have invested. Not thinking that we can go to India and we can pollute. They have analyzed the economic terms. And as they know very well, India is not very particular strict with the environmental regulations. So they have come from other countries, they have moved to India and they have invested. And they have not taken the care of environmental issues, environmental regulations. So that what Eric says from his analysis in 2007, he rejected this pollution haven hypothesis and says there is no relationship between FDI and pollution or carbon emissions. That is one case study. If you take this Shani and Rastogi in 2015, they have studied US-India trade relationship between 91 and 2010. And they have concluded that India a pollution haven for some polluting industries of the USA, like chemical, like that. They have found, a study has found that the US has invested in chemical industry, iron industry and steel industry in India. So what it shows, the US is investing in India where the pollution related industry is moving towards India. So they are concentrating, US is concentrating more on pollution based industries. So there is a relationship. That is the idea. So some studies says that there is no relationship. Some studies says there is some relationship. That is, some studies they reject this pollution haven hypothesis. Some studies they accept the hypothesis. And if you take the case of Haller et al. Others in 2015, they have investigated the presence of pollution haven hypothesis in 177 countries, and they found that FDI and pollution are positively related. From 177 countries they found. See, definitely there will be some increase in carbon emission. Definitely, when there is investment, definitely there will be some changes. but there is certain limitation. I will say in the last. If I tell in the beginning itself, you may not involve. Then other study, McCloy in 16, he proved there is existence of pollution heaven hypothesis. And what they found is the US is investing on tire based industries in other countries wherever it is lenient, wherever the pollution legislation is very lenient. So it is a clear cut idea. US is investing on tire manufacturing industries. What it showed, tire, when you manufacture tire chemical, it will lead to various chemicals. If you take the case of Kadalur Sipcard, it is releasing 18 various chemicals which is banned in US. They are not allowed to produce those chemicals in US. But in India, just near to Kadalur, within the Kadalur district, we are producing those chemicals. So this is the understanding of this hypothesis and case study. And Murthy in 18, he has analyzed this environmental Kushner's curve hypothesis and pollution heaven hypothesis. And the study found that there is no relationship between FDI and pollution. And now a new idea, that is in 18, it has come, and it says that we could not get evidence. We could not get evidence. Some studies, they are, see, the variables that we are using gives the results, that's all. The variables that we are using gives the results. So some studies accepts the pollution heaven hypothesis and some study rejects the hypothesis. And Mohit Roy in 18 found that environmental regulations does not influence the investment. Rather, other infrastructures like market, access, these factors influences. So somewhat you might have got the clue. That is, when a country is trying to invest in a country, it will not think more about the pollution, it will think more about the market structure. Whether I can invest here, what is the potential, where if the labor is huge, why not I can start in industry where I can get cheap labor. So the theory of comparative advantage comes here, rather the pollution heaven hypothesis. So this is the correlate. He says that Mohit Roy in 18, he found that, see, this pollution heaven hypothesis does not work. When a person is investing in a country, he will be more particular about the infrastructure in that country. For example, I will say, in a country the pollution tax is minimum. For example, if you are not providing electricity, road, other things, how they will invest? They will not come forward. They will not come forward. They will not definitely invest. So they will look all the factors. Okay, understand all the factors. When the FDA is coming to a country, they will be analyzing all the factors, rather only the environmental factors. So what the hypothesis says, it connects only the two factors. One is FDI and another is carbon emission or pollution. But there are many more factors that decides FDI. So another study in Nigeria, they have taken data from 1970 to 17, and they have found that less stringent environmental regulations is a reality for Nigeria. So the countries, they move to Nigeria and they feel comfortable and they invest on polluting industries, the industries that pollute more. This is the idea they have got. And another study, Demina of 2020, they have used a meta-analysis. That is, as I said earlier, studying various n number of studies. And using 65 studies, they found that FDI significantly reduces the environmental emissions. A new findings. Just you closely follow what the environmental heavens hypothesis says. When the FDI moves to a country, it will increase the pollution. That too, it will see whether the regulation is weak and they will pollute. But what this study in the year 2020 says that when FDI flows into a country, it will reduce environmental emissions. That is the thing. How it will reduce? When I invest, it will pollute. Okay, that is the logic. But how it will reduce the emission? That is the question. I will give the answer in the conclusion. Now we are in the concluding part. So what is the general observation of various studies regard to pollution heaven hypothesis? It is simple and sounding idea, but it is very complex in reality. But it appears to be very simple. And the developed countries will have strong environmental rules, so that wherever the regulations are weak, the country will invest. By comparing the environmental regulations only, the FDI flows. That is the idea. But it appears to be very simple, but it is complex. As I said earlier, FDI is not determined only by the environmental legislation of a country. So the previous case study also says that FDI, when the FDI increases, the pollution emissions falls down. That is the idea they say. How it is possible? It allows us to think more, and it is a complex in reality. Then to prove this pollution haven hypothesis, we need huge data. That is, we must have before and after they have moved to developed and developing countries to invest. What is the pollution before? What is the pollution after? For example, what is the pollution level in 2015? What is the pollution level in the year 2016? What is the investment and what is the pollution? Even if you are very particular about this year, I will ask you a question whether only because of the industry there is pollution. See, only 30% of the pollution is contributed by the industries. 70% of the pollution is because of the human activity. Automobiles. See, we have 3 two-wheelers, 4 two-wheelers, each and everyone we are having a two-wheeler. And we are using fuel. Auto rickshaws, bus. All these pollute 70%. 30% only by the industry. Now, who is the victim? Whether the people polluting 70% is the victim or 30% is the victim. How you can compare with the FDI and the pollution? So the carbon emissions may be due to vehicles. Carbon emission may be due to industries. So for everything you must have clear-cut data so that to some extent we can analyze. But we do not have such a data, enough data to analyze this pollution haven hypothesis, and it is very complex in reality. And they say that developing and developed countries having regulations on the books only, they are not adapting. Even in US, you go through some literatures. When I am going through some literatures in US, they are not strictly following the regulations, even though they have some carbon emission tax, everything. You take the case of India. If you release a ton of carbon, you have to pay 400 rupees. Whether they are collecting exactly. If they collect exactly, they will run away. But we are not doing that. So we are having rules and regulations only in the book. I am not telling. Various authors, they are telling that. They are explaining those aspects. So this is the situation of this pollution haven hypothesis. And we cannot be sure with the pollution haven hypothesis in India. We cannot approve. As because pollution is from various sources, how you can say that FDI leads to carbon emissions? It is a difficult task. And the real world is too complicated to explain any single theory. Now it is like a theory. So we have complex things. We have failed in measuring. Even though we are releasing certain carbon emissions, it is not very exact. Nowadays we are speaking about transboundary pollution. India is polluting, Pakistan is polluting, China is polluting. Who is polluting? Who polluted? Who is the reason for that? There is also a question of the transboundary pollution. So at the international level, we can think rather thinking about a specific country. Nowadays the pollution is transboundary. So even the idea is very weak. Theory helps us to organize the ideas, provides a lens to look at a issue. But this case, this lens itself distracts the view. So the theory gives some idea, it gives some lens. But sometimes when we approach the theory, it is not giving clear-cut idea. So there we fail. But even then, we are trying. That is the nature of scholarship. And we are trying to analyze, we are trying to find some solution. That is the core idea. And coming to the suggestions, I give two hypotheses. One is a hypothesis of Porter and another one is pollution halo hypothesis. As against to the haven hypothesis, we have pollution halo hypothesis and another one is Porter hypothesis. What they say about? I will even give an answer for the last case study. The FDI, when FDI increases, carbon emission falls down. What the Porter and this pollution halo hypothesis say is, when you allow FDI into a country, the investment should be on green technologies. Green technologies. If it happens, then the FDI will support the environmental management. Then the emission will fall down. Otherwise, if you allow the country to invest, without any regulation they will pollute. But what Porter says, if you allow a industry, if you allow a FDI, then if they concentrate on green technologies, sustainable technologies or renewable energy, then we can say that FDI will reduce the carbon emissions, otherwise it will increase. See, if I read that polluting firms can benefit from environmental policies, arguing that well designed and stringent environmental regulation can stimulate innovations. So when a country comes into India to invest, if you say that only you must use renewable energy, you can use only green technologies. If you say like that, whether they will come forward to invest, that is the question. But if they come with such a perspective, then definitely FDI will reduce the carbon emissions. Otherwise, there is no other go. Even the pollution halo hypothesis also says what the Porter says. So they will think more about the renewable technologies like that. That is the core idea. So pollution haven hypothesis says when FDI enters, that too they will see where it is weak and they will pollute. But what pollution haven hypothesis says, when they enter into a country, if you say that you have to adapt only sustainable technologies, then the pollution will come down or emission level will come down. But yeah, there is a point. FDI may help to achieve lower carbon emissions provided a strong institutional framework in place. If you have a strong institutional framework, then everything is possible. See, the same example I will say. If I am not wearing helmet, the legislation says you have to wear helmet while riding the two-wheeler. If a rule says that if I am not wearing helmet, if the two-wheeler will be seized, not fine, it will be seized, then everyone will be wearing helmet. My two-wheeler is 60,000 rupee. So what I will do? Helmet is some 2,000 rupee. I will compare. Let it be. I will wear. So a strict framework, strict rules and regulations is important rather simply giving promises. That is my suggestion. Coming to the case of India, that recently our Prime Minister attended this COP conference of the parties 26, the Glasgow. There he has promised that within 2070 we will arrive zero pollution, zero emissions. Still he is giving some 50 years. By the 50 years we will reach that goal. And by 2030 he has given 5 goals. He says that we will move towards renewable energy, that is non-fossil energy, and it will be 500 gigawatt capacity by 2030. And India will meet 50% of its energy requirements from renewable energy, and it will reduce carbon emissions. And he gives various promises, 5 promises. And lastly he says within 2070 we will come to zero emissions. But in the case India is not ready to accept carbon trading and border carbon tax. As our professor said, carbon trading the Indian government is not accepting. That border carbon tax we are not accepting. Carbon emission, this carbon trading is we will give certain amount of credits to a country or a industry. That industry can pollute up to the target, and if it goes beyond that, they have to purchase from others those are having the credits. And it is a big topic. Carbon trading means if I am an industrialist, the government will give some credits. For example, 100 tons of carbon I can release. So if I release lesser amount of carbon, 50 tons of carbon, remaining 50 tons of carbon credits can be sold to the another who is emitting more carbons. That is carbon trading. But the developed countries are accepting that this carbon trading, but we are not accepting. So it will affect our business, so that we are not accepting. Similarly, border carbon tax. If you export a product and in the border if they levy tax, and it will affect our economy because it is based on various pollution. It may, after consuming those products, the product is produced by releasing pollution. And once again, if they use the product, it will release more emissions. So we are not accepting those tax. So it shows dual perception. We have huge laws, but when it is coming to the practice, we are not accepting. But we have given targets within 2030, and next year this COP27 is going to be in Egypt, where we have to present our targets. How we will attain these targets by 2030. But one thing I will say, when Obama was president, he initiated that we will reduce the production so that we will reduce the emission. And when when the Trump came, he did not accept these rules and he increased the production. This is the condition of a well-developed country who want to direct all the other countries. This is the situation. Now, if this is the condition, then how could we reduce the pollution? That is up to our knowledge. And according to me, pollution heaven hypothesis cannot be accepted in the case of India, because this FDI is moving towards the country, no doubt about it. But when it moves to the country, it is not alone polluting. It is not alone. Even the other, as I said earlier, even vehicle emissions, automobile emissions are there. So we cannot come to a conclusion that FDI is polluting. And that too, the policies where the rules and regulation will be weak otherwise. Even if you have strong rules and regulation, some countries are polluting. But there is no monitoring agencies. Even US, the literature says like that. Even US is not doing that. So with this, you may get an idea, and if you see this picture, you may understand what it shows. People are giving for a picture by standing to a green picture. Rather, they are not controlling the deforestation and controlling the pollution. And this conclusion will be like this. My understanding for the past 20 years, if you have enough forest resources, then we can manage the resources. It can absorb the carbons. Even whatever the pollution that we do, it can absorb the carbons. But at present, we have only 21% of the forest cover, and it has to be increased to 33%. So we have to save the forest. If you save the forest, at least to some extent, we can control the pollution, irrespective of other factors like FDI and other things. With this, I thank one and all for having a patient listening to my lecture. Thank you.
Thank you for a very good percentage.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now we invite our faculty members and students to have any clarification or doubts.
One hypothesis, we have pollution halo hypothesis, and another one is Porter hypothesis. What they say about? I will even give an answer for the last case study. The FDI, when FDI increases, carbon emission falls down. What the Porter and this pollution halo hypothesis say is, when you allow FDI into a country, the investment should be on green technologies. If it happens, then the FDI will support the environmental management. Then the emission will fall down. Otherwise, if you allow the country to invest without any regulation, they will pollute. But what Porter says, if you allow a industry, if you allow a FDI, then if they concentrate on green technologies, sustainable technologies or renewable energy, then we can say that FDI will reduce the carbon emissions, otherwise it will increase. See, if I read that, polluting firms can benefit from environmental policies, arguing that well-designed and stringent environmental regulation can stimulate innovations. So when a country comes into India to invest, if you say that only you must use renewable energy, you can use only green technologies. If you say like that, whether they will come forward to invest, that is the question. But if they come with such a perspective, then definitely FDI will reduce the carbon emissions. Otherwise, there is no other go. Even the pollution halo hypothesis also says what the Porter says. So they will think more about the renewable technologies like that. That is the core idea. So pollution heaven hypothesis says when FDI enters, that too they will see where it is weak and they will pollute. But what pollution heaven hypothesis says, when they enter into a country, if you say that you have to adapt only sustainable technologies, then the pollution will come down or emission level will come down. But here there is a point. FDI may help to achieve lower carbon emissions, provided a strong institutional framework in place. If you have a strong institutional framework, then everything is possible. See, the same example I will say. If I am not wearing helmet, the legislation says you have to wear helmet while riding the two-wheeler. If a rule says that if I am not wearing helmet, if the two-wheeler will be seized, not fine, it will be seized, then everyone will be wearing helmet. My two-wheeler is 60,000 rupee So what I will do? Helmet is some 2000 rupee. I will compare. Let it be. I will wear. So a strict framework, a strict rules and regulation is important rather simply giving promises. That is my suggestion. Coming to the case of India, that recently our Prime Minister attended this COP conference of the parties 26, the Glasgow. There he has promised that within 2070 we will arrive zero pollution, zero emissions. Still he is giving some 50 years. By the 50 years we will reach that goal. And by 2030 he has given 5 goals. He says that we will move towards renewable energy, that is non-fossil energy, and it will be 500 gigawatt capacity by 2030, and India will meet 50% of its energy requirements from renewable energy, and it will reduce carbon emissions. And he gives various promises, 5 promises, and lastly he says within 2070 we will come to zero emissions. But in the case, India is not ready to accept carbon trading and border carbon tax. As our professor said, carbon trading the Indian government is not accepting. That border carbon tax, we are not accepting. Carbon emission, this carbon trading is we will give certain amount of credits to a country or a industry. That industry can pollute up to the target, and if it goes beyond that, they have to purchase from others those who are having the credits. And it is a big topic. Carbon trading means if I am an industrialist, the government will give some credits. For example, 100 tons of carbon I can release. So if I release lesser amount of carbon, 50 tons of carbon, remaining 50 tons of carbon credits can be sold to the another who is emitting more carbons. That is carbon trading. But the developed countries are accepting that this carbon trading, but we are not accepting. So it will affect our business, so that we are not accepting. Similarly, border carbon tax. If you export a product and in the border if they levy tax, and it will affect our economy because it is based on various pollution. It may, after consuming those products, the product is produced by releasing pollution, and once again if they use the product it will release more emissions. So we are not accepting those tax. So it shows dual perception. We have huge loss, but when it is coming to the practice we are not accepting. But we have given targets within 2030, and next year this COP27 is going to be in Egypt, where we have to present our targets, how we will attain these targets by 2030. But one thing I will say, when Obama was president, he initiated that we will reduce the production so that we will reduce the emission. And when the Trump came, he did not accept these rules and he increased the production. This is the condition of a well-developed country who want to direct all the other countries. This is the situation. Now, if this is the condition, then how could we reduce the pollution? That is up to our knowledge. And according to me, pollution heaven hypothesis cannot be accepted in the case of India, because this FDI is moving towards the country, no doubt about it. But when it moves to the country, it is not alone polluting. It is not alone. Even the other, as I said earlier, even vehicle emissions, automobile emissions are there. So we cannot come to a conclusion that FDI is polluting. And that too, the policies where the rules and regulation will be weak. Otherwise, even if you have strong rules and regulation, some countries are polluting. But there is no monitoring agencies. Even US, the literature says like that. Even US is not doing that. So with this, you may get an idea, and if you see this picture, you may understand what it shows. People are giving for a picture by standing to a green picture. Rather, they are not controlling the deforestation and controlling the pollution. And this conclusion will be like this. My understanding for the past 20 years, if you have enough forest resources, then we can manage the resources. It can absorb the carbons. Even whatever the pollution that we do, it can absorb the carbons. But at present, we have only 21% of the forest cover, and it has to be increased to 33%. So we have to save the forest. If you save the forest, at least to some extent, we can control the pollution, irrespective of other factors like FDI and other things. With this, I thank one and all for having a patient listening to my lecture.